We've looked at some of the possible solutions to this crisis, but even the best ideas aren't going to get very far without resources. So let's take a look at a major $100 million initiative to fund these and other projects.
OurCrowd, the Jerusalem-based crowdfunding venture capital platform, is planning to raise a $100 million pandemic innovation fund to invest in technologies that will address challenges posed by the COVID-19 wave.
These are the entrepreneurs who are already in the fight. They're developing technologies, whether it's in diagnostics or vaccines, therapeutics, remote health, and even technologies that are focused on the new normal, allowing us all to work from home and to do distance learning. There is unprecedented innovation going on, and they need support. In the meantime, help is on the way for those important entrepreneurs who are fighting the virus and the new situation.
This $100 million Pandemic Innovation Fund will be OurCrowd's biggest fund to date, and it made headlines around the world. Here to tell us more about why the fund is necessary and how it will operate, I'm joined now by Richard Norman, the co-head of funds at OurCrowd. Richard, $100 million is a lot of money by anyone's measure. Why do we need a Pandemic Innovation Fund?
Well, we at OurCrowd, like every investor, have been watching the public markets very closely over the last few months. And you can't help but notice the massive bifurcation that's happening between the basket of companies that are addressing the COVID crisis and the very many that are not. And while there are ways to participate in this public play on the pandemic side, we haven't found a private play to do the same thing. And the hallmark of OurCrowd is to offer investors the chance to participate in private companies before they go public, where we believe most of the value is created, and do so in interesting structures. So we have built now over 20 funds on various different themes and sectors to take advantage of this private market value creation. And we think that we are uniquely well placed in this pandemic, given that so many of our companies have positioned themselves to tackle COVID-19 and to create an investment vehicle in which our investors could come in and participate and find this private market pandemic play.
Well, here to discuss this in more detail are two of the fund's principals, Dr. Maurice Laster and David Sokolik. Dr. Laster, the world's greatest medical minds are hard at work on developing a vaccine. We've already heard some good news of at least partial success from Oxford and other places. Why should investors believe that one of your companies has a better medical solution?
Because the breadth and depth of this pandemic is unprecedented. It is affecting so many different aspects of life and medicine as well. We at the fund identified two major silos that we're going to be addressing. The first is going to be prevention and containment. The second going to be treatment and healing. So as far as prevention and containment is concerned, obviously vaccines are going to be up there. There's going to need to be more than one vaccine. We're going to need to find the patients. We're going to need to treat them better. We're going to need to contain this disease, whether it's with personal protective equipment, whether it's surfaces that are anti-infective, whether it's screening and sensors that can detect the virus or detect people who might be infected. And then we're going on to treatment and healing. We're obviously going to be looking at drugs or therapeutics directly attacking COVID-19, but it's not only COVID-19. COVID-19 really is affecting all parts of the body almost. There is central nervous system involvement. There is the famous pulmonary involvement, ARDS. There is going to be long-term complications, probably of pulmonary fibrosis. And just this week, there was an article in the New England Journal that COVID-19 may actually cause diabetes. So we're talking about a disease that is affecting so many different aspects of life. It's not just going to be over with a vaccine.
And why should investors choose OurCrowd to lead the search for these kinds of medical solutions?
Well, my partner, Dr. Maury Blumenfeld, and I have been working at OurCrowd for the past 6 years on our medtech portfolio. We've invested in over 30 companies to date. About $100 million has been used in these companies. And I'm really proud of the fact that about half of our portfolio has actually been able to find use cases to address the COVID-19 pandemic. It's incredible. Beyond their base technologies and what they're doing, they use those technologies to help attack this disease. And as far as our fund is concerned, we're going to be looking at a combination of heritage companies, companies you've probably heard of, such as Sanitize, which is developing a liquid nitric oxide solution to help prevent COVID-19 infection healthcare providers and maybe even treat. We're looking at a heritage company like MeMed that can help diagnose and say which patients may deteriorate and may be asymptomatic, and you'll be able to detect who they are. And new companies like MigVax, Israel's leading vaccine company, oral vaccine that's being developed for COVID-19 from the Migal Research Institute, and a new company that just launched today called CytoReason, which is using AI to find new drugs to fight immunological problems as well as ARDS. We see tremendous deal flow, hundreds of companies a year that has only increased since the onset of the pandemic. So we feel very confident and excited to try and address the pandemic with this fund.
David Sokolik, at the end of the day, isn't it rather simple? You just find the best medical solution in prevention or treatment, you back it, and you win. Shouldn't this just really be a medical fund?
Well, there's certainly important aspects of the medical crisis that need to be addressed. And as Morris outlined, we see a wealth of opportunity there. But beyond that, we also think this crisis is going to have impact in many different aspects of society, as well as the economy. And as Richard mentioned, if you look at what's going on Wall Street, there are companies that are benefiting from this because they're addressing issues that are being accelerated by COVID. So we plan to put together a diverse portfolio, and we want to address the non-medical aspects as well. What you see on the slide are some companies from our existing portfolio, and the overall strategy for the fund is to put together a portfolio that includes medical as well as non-medical opportunities, later stage investments from the existing OurCrowd portfolio, and a substantial number of early stage investments as well that are new investments which also address these trends.
And what are those long-term trends beyond medical that present investment opportunities right now?
So when we put the fund together, we sat down and spent quite a bit of time thinking through different investment theses. They're outlined in the PPM, if you'd like to read them in detail. But I'll just address one of them that is something that speaks to me personally. So one of the areas where we see and expect an acceleration is in education. The world has been through a massive experiment in distance learning in the last few weeks. As a parent, I've also suffered through and tried to figure out how to educate my kids online. And thankfully, we have the basic desktop video conferencing tools to enable us to implement the existing form of education online rather easily. But we also think that this crisis will open the opportunity to experiment with new forms of education. Now that people are used to computer-mediated education, it opens the door to leverage tools like AI and address some of the challenges in the existing educational system.
And a lot of other things to come. Richard Norman, Dr. Morris Laster, and David Sokolik, thank you.